What does 2-core 4 threads mean in CPU? I wanted to know what does 2 cores 4 threads mean about a CPU? I am talking about this CPU which I have. This URL. I initially thought i5 had 4 cores, but I think I am wrong. My understanding of a thread is it is a chunk of code that can run simultaneously concurrently with other threads. So, what does 4 threads mean in that specs sheet? Is it different from the programmatic threads? Is the number of threads in there different from the program thread that we create? If it has just 2 cores, then is it correct that you can only run 2 parallel programs even though it has 4 threads?
Your i5 has 2 cores, each core can run 2 threads because of Intel's hyperthreading, making 4 threads. Beyond that, it switches at high speeds between processes. Here's a nice explanation of multi-threading if you want to know more, but in essence your CPU can run 4 processes simultaneously, and switch at high speed between processes.
I'm not sure about your level of expertise on computer architecture, however the Core i5 you've mentioned here implements a form of multi-threading known as simultaneous multi-threading, SMT. Intel's trademark for their implementation of SMT is hyperthreading. Apart from SMT, there are other forms of multi-threading, temporal multi-threading being one. For instance, fine-grained temporal multi-threading where the processor may switch between different threads every cycle and thus enable pseudo-parallel execution of several programs. Similarly, there can be coarse-grained temporal multi-threading where a processor may switch between threads when it hits a high-latency operation such as a main memory access on the current thread. The exact switch points can vary based on implementation and requirements, such as fairness or real-time deadlines. SMT deviates from the context switch philosophy for multi-threading in that it actually has 2 or more threads executing on one processor at the same time. While the implementation can vary, the primary goal is to exploit the functional units in the processor which are idling if only one thread was executing, and also to exploit the wide-issue superscalar nature of the processor. You can imagine temporal multi-threading as time slicing the processor's resources, while SMT is spatial slicing of the resources. A detailed analysis can be found in Chulson's 1995 paper. This URL.
Take the number of threads and divide it by the number of cores, and that will give you the number of threads can be run simultaneously per processor core. In earlier times, on earlier Intel models, hyperthreading was limited to one core running 2 threads simultaneously or multiple cores running one instruction set, aka thread, per core. Pretty inefficient if you ask me. But with better computation power and later developments such as your i5 processor, you have what I like to call a multi-core hyperthreaded processor, which has multiple cores running multiple instruction sets, aka threads, per core. In your case, one core gets 2 threads, so when you do the math you have a total of equals 4 instruction sets, threads. Another example, hash of cores equals 4, hash of threads equals 8, 8/4 equals 2, so each core processes 2 threads simultaneously. Not sure which processor model does this, but I'm almost certain that one exists. Hope this helps my friend. Happy computing. Source: Pearson at Certification CompTIA A+ Exam Cram Cert. Manual.
If it has just 2 cores, then is it correct that you can only run 2 parallel programs even though it has 4 threads? If it has 2 cores, the calculation is divide by 2 equals parallelism. However, if your system has hyper-threading, it can do the 2 calculation in the same core. Why? The same core shows to the OSUP as 2 cores, logical cores.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.